Hello everyone, very good morning. So yesterday we talked about the Lightning Data Services. Today we will be talking about how we can interact with Salesforce data via Apex. Okay, so if your requirement is complex or you have a requirement which require you to write SQL queries to get the data, the required data you want, and process in your UI, then we will be using Apex because it is very flexible and we can do whatever we want to do. We can display the data, whatever data we want to display. Those flexibilities are not available when we traditionally use Lightning Data Services because they are very restricted service and they are used for specific use cases, but they are not very flexible in terms of what you can do in terms of improvising the data or doing all the additional things on the data. So whenever we have to do some additional thing or whenever we have a data set which is not easily available, then we use Apex to display all those things, and it is highly flexible model, so we will be using that model. Now let me first, so there are two ways to do that. One is to do it imperatively and other one is to do it via the wire method. Okay, so first we will talk about the wire method and then we will talk about the imperative way. Okay, and during whole implementation we will try to make some mistakes and then we will revert those mistakes to see how we are doing all those things. So we are going to jump onto example directly and we will see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to create a new component. Let me name it fetching data via. Okay, let's just name it so that I will be able to understand what it is. And I'm going to put it on the report page, app page, and home page. All right. So what we are going to do, we are going to fetch the list of accounts from the backend. Okay. If I go back to Salesforce and see if we have accounts or not first. Yep, we have plenty of account. That's a good thing. So what we're going to do now, so in order to fetch the accounts from the Apex, we first need to create the Apex class as well. Okay, and for that we will create a new Apex class. Let's call it the account data handler. We will create a class and we will create a method in this class. And this will return a list of accounts. So return type will be a list, and let's call it account data handler method. Currently, it is not going to take any input parameter and will directly be returning the list of account. Let's say we are returning the select ID from account. Let's only fetch the 10 accounts. Now, if we write our class like this class will not be accessible to our Lightning Web Component. In order to do that, what we need to do, we need to make sure that we have used the Aura enabled annotation. Okay, so we will use the Aura enabled annotation. And we will save the class. We will go back to the JS file. Okay. And here, what we need to do first, we need to import this particular Apex class and the method. So that's how we're going to write it from @Salesforce slash apex slash class name dot method name. That's how we are going to import this particular class. All right. And what we need to do now, we are going to use wire service. So we first need to import the wire as well. Now we have got the wire. What we need to do now, we will write wire and then we will call this method. Okay, and then assign the properties, let's say a variable name accounts. So what we are doing here, we enclosed a wire decorator here and we called this method, and whatever return, whatever records or result we got from this method, we have assigned that to a particular property. Okay, there are two ways to do that. We can either assign it to a property or we can assign it to a function. Okay, so we are first doing it with the help of a property, and we will be seeing how we are going to see the results in the UI, and then later on we will go and do this with the help of a property as well. Okay, and I will tell you the difference between both two and why we use it, because this is also an important interview question, like when we should use property, when we should use function to get the results from the apex. Okay, but first we will see a functioning model of this, and then we will try to see the behavior. So on the UI, let me just first add a lightning card. Okay, fetching, we name it data via Apex with wire. Okay, and inside that, whenever, see, we have got the list of accounts. So this will return the around 10 accounts. Okay, so in this accounts, we will have 10 accounts. So we have to iterate over 10 accounts. Whenever we have to iterate over a list of something, we use the template tag first,
Template or iterator, not or iterator.
and
For
then
each loop also.
we will use for each. Okay, and here you will write down your property name, which is accounts. As I told you, we will first do couple of use cases, see why we are, because this is what we normally do. Okay, for each, and then we will have to define for item variable, which is, let's say, ACC. And then here, let's say we are going to display the account name. Okay, so here we will display the ACC dot name. And it is also very important for you to provide the key here. Okay, key basically is nothing but the unique iterator. So it will be ACC dot ID. Okay,
Hello.
yes, hi.
Hey Mohit. So can you please here explain that concept? Like for instance, what if we don't have SEC ID as a unique? So at that time, like how can we implement, as you had said that right in the morning, we can implement the
Okay, yeah, see,
index.
yes, we have to make sure that we have something which is unique in it. If not, then we need to generate it. So the moment when you were converting a list into array, you have to convert it
Mhm.
in a way that one of the parameters should be the index parameter, which we can use as a unique ID. Okay, I will explain that part. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So, all right. That's what we did. Let me now deploy this to page and then show you if we are hitting any error or not. Okay. So this is the, let's try to add this in the home page. remove these components because these component have console statements. All right, what is the name of it? Fetching account data via wire. Okay, this is giving us error. Okay, and this is very common error. Most of the time you will be getting these errors in Lightning Web Component, like this is not a function or something like that. Okay, no problem. We will just try to save this. Any idea, guys, why we are getting this error? Before I explain that. See, what happens is this, whenever you get the result back from your Lightning, from your Apex in your Lightning Web Component, this particular property, gets the value as an object. Okay. So this accounts, this account is an object which has two property. One is data. Okay, there will be some data, and one is error.
Error.
Okay, so there will be some errors. So what we are trying to do here is that we are directly using accounts, which is an object. So we are iterating over the object, whereas what we need to do is that we need to iterate over a list. Okay, because this syntax is to iterate over a list. So what we need to do, instead of accounts, what we want to do, we want to iterate over accounts dot data. Okay, let's see what the error is. Okay, let me see. So because this account is nothing but an object which contains data as well as error, we need to make sure that we are iterating over the data. Okay. And we will try to save this. Let me again go back to the page. And let's go back and see. Now, currently it is not giving us any data, but we are also not getting any error. Okay, which is wrong. So in order to get the errors as well, what we need to do, see, Abhi, we are not sure if our Apex is passing that data or not, or if your JavaScript is able to receive that data or not. From what we have written in the Apex, this is very simple code. I don't think there will be any problem in passing that data. But in your real project, if you get a problem like this, what you will do, or if an interviewer asks you that whatever you have done, data is not visible on the page, then there are steps to debug it. Okay, first you will debug it on the server level, like you will be seeing that if your Apex is able to pass that data or not. And then second step is to check it on the client side. Then you will be checking your JavaScript code and will be trying to see if you are getting the data or not. So currently you only have accounts, you do not have anything by which you can check that data. Okay, if you try to write the life cycle hooks and all, you will be able to see a different picture here, which I'll be showing you, don't worry. But we have to identify why we are not getting data. So what we are going to do here, we are going to again write a template tag. See, only outer templates can be blank. If you write any inner template, you will have to provide the properties inside it. If you are using it for loop or if you are using it for the conditional rendering. Okay.
Mohit?
Yep. Hi.
Yeah, like when we use the catchable is equal to.
Yep, we will have to use the catchable equals to. That is something we will do. That is why I'm saying that I will be writing couple of things purposefully wrong. So I'm trying to show you that If I iterate through this list, then there is some data in the accounts.data. Okay. Otherwise, we can write this. If it is false, then we can write anything like something went wrong or error.
So we can directly take error account.error
Sorry.
if true.
Yeah, we can also use that.
If true account.error.
We can also use that, and we can display the error message. Okay, this is just to show you the conditional rendering, how conditional rendering work. Okay, then this part will only be displayed if this has data. Otherwise, this part will be displayed. Okay, and here we can use if true accounts dot error, and we can display the error message the same way we are doing the templates. Okay, so that's how the conditional rendering works. Okay. And see, whenever you work on Lightning Web Component, there will be some things, sometimes you might need to refresh your page. Sometimes you need to re-add your component. These things will keep on handling. So what it is saying, cannot read the property of undefined. So what happening is that at the time, this data is undefined. It is saying that it is undefined, so it is not able to read. Remember, guys, when I told you that whenever the wire service loads the, you will get the JavaScript engine will assign an undefined value to it by default till the time it does not get the actual data. Okay, so that's what happening, and that is why we are getting this error. So first, now let me show you a working model of it. And the error is only because we have not added the cacheable equals to true in our Apex class. Okay, but how will I get to know about it? How will I get to know about it without actually seeing the error? So for that, what you can do, instead of using the accounts directly, what we are going to do, we are going to assign it to a function. Okay, a property, a function. We can say that, uh, like name it wired account, and then define it inside a function, and this will get the data comma error. And you can say that if there is data, then let's define two properties, accounts and error. If data, then this dot accounts equals to data, and this dot error equals to undefined. Else this dot data equal to undefined, and this dot error equals to error. Okay, and here you can write down the console log. Now, what we need to do first, remove the conditional part from here. That was just to show you how conditional rendering works. Okay, we will reuse it again. But for now, I want to show you that how you can actually debug it in whenever you get in your real-time projects. Okay, that's the purpose here. Because see, Salesforce LWC is more about debugging. The sooner you start debugging it or you understand how you debug it, the more you will be comfortable with it. Otherwise, you will always keep on guessing that why we are getting this error or why no data is getting displayed on the UI. So it is very important if we debug it. Just a second, it has not taken the latest. Okay, and we have to change the UI as well. On the HTML file as well, we need to make some changes that we did not do. So now we will not iterate over accounts.data because now we have assigned those things to accounts. So accounts is actually the list of accounts, not the accounts.data. So we need not to iterate over accounts.data. Instead, we will be iterating over the accounts because we have assigned the data to accounts. Okay, and that is why, the functions are better than assigning it directly to a property, although properties will also work perfectly fine. But that is why function is a better way because you get better control over the result as well as the errors. Okay, so now if I go back to the Salesforce screen, let me go back, refresh the page. Okay, now if I inspect this, you will be able to see that this is the error. You are getting some error. Okay. Now you also see that initially it was undefined and then it was reloaded again and there was an error. So, but it is displaying as an object and object. So you will not get any meaningful error like that. So how to see those errors in a meaningful manner? What you can do, here you are getting the error. What you're going to do, we are going to use the JSON dot stringify, convert those object into a string, and then we will be able to see that error or the data, whatever. So let's convert the data as well in the JSON dot stringify and see if you are able to see the data. Okay, the only reason why I'm showing you and telling you this is that because whenever you face any problem in your Lightning Web Component, you should know how you debug that and how do you identify the root cause of the problem. Okay, sometimes LWC problems are so general that you will always get errors like this is not a function, or whatever errors you get, you will not get the exact reason of why you are getting error. Okay, so here the reason is that we have not used the cacheable equals to true, but from the error you will not be able to identify that it was the reason unless you see actually that. Okay, so that is what we are trying to do here. Let's refresh this. Now you can see that this is the error. Status code is 500 and body is apex method that are to be cached must be marked as or enabled cacheable equals to true. So now you will be able to see that, okay, this is the reason why I'm not able to display any data on my page. So this error, the moment you will be able to see this error, everything will be clear in your mind that why you are getting this error. You will go back to your apex page, apex class, and you will put a cacheable equals to true.
Sir, I have one question. Like, see,
Yep.
in Aura versus LWC, in Aura, every time we don't need to write the cacheable equals to true, but in LWC we have to write.
Sorry, I did not get this.
See, in Aura development, every time we don't need to write the cacheable equals to true. If we write the Aura enabled if we make the method as aura enable, and if you try to get the data, then it will fetch. It will not throw any error
Hmm.
in aura, right? But in LWC, every time we have to write cacheable equals to true. So
Yeah, whenever we are using the wire service, we have to make sure that the cacheable equals to true is also written. But if we use the imperative service, it is not required for you to write the cacheable equals to true in the imperative way.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
So
okay.
cacheable equals to true is only required when we are using the wire service, because this basically makes sure that your data is cached. Plus, you will not be able to do any DML inside this method. You will only be able to read the data. That's it. You will not be able to make any DML at all. But if you are using the imperative method, even if you omit this cacheable equals to true, you will be able to use it.
And we can also process by, we can also perform DML.
Yes, you will be able to
Yeah,
perform
yeah.
DML as well. We
Gotcha.
will we will see that. Okay.
Hmm. Gotcha. Thank
So
you.
now, what we did, we have added the cacheable equals to true, and here we have used the wired account to receive the data. Now, if we go back to the Salesforce screen, and if we refresh this, you can see that you have got the data now. This is the data you have, and this is how you are able to display that data on the page. So we were able to fetch the data from the Apex with the help of the wire service, with the help of the wire method. Okay, that's how we fetch it. Now, because I've shown you this thing via a property, it is my responsibility to show you this via the property as well, just like we were doing earlier. So now we will do it via the property, just like we were doing earlier. Okay, let's put it to accounts. Okay, and then use the accounts.data on the UI. This should also display as the data if we refresh this. This is the older version. This is the new version because there is no console statement because we have removed that function. Okay, so there is no console statement related to data or error, but we are able to display the data. So this is the same wire property which is giving us the data. So you understand there are two ways to do that. One is by assigning the Apex results into a property directly, and then there is another way by which you assign the Apex results into a function, and then you manually go through the errors and data and assign those variables directly. Now, a very important concept, and we were going through this last time as well, is like when this wire will get the properties. During the life cycle of a Lightning Web component, during which life cycle hook it will get property, or when it will have no property, what will be the behavior of it. So what we are going to do, we are going to write down the couple of life cycle hooks. Okay.
I think when the constructor is loaded at the time, it will be the
We
data.
we will see that. We will see that. That is why we are going to use it. So we have written constructor, we have written the connected callback. Let's also write down the rendered callback, and we will write down the system sorry, dot debug sorry.
And also say in the JS we have this dot, right? So
Yes,
when to
I,
use
I will
that,
I will explain you
not
when.
not this dot, sorry, super dot. I know this dot, super dot.
Mhm.
Like is it like when we are importing any parent or the child,
See,
any
so
parent at that time?
yeah, whenever you use something of the parent, then only you use the super keyword. Here, what we are saying with this super line is that this is the uh, see constructor has been written inside the lightning element class. So we have to do the super method first, so that we tell them that we are whatever we are doing, we will not be overriding anything written on the lightning element class. So that is why super is important. If you omit the super and try to save it, okay, we will see what happens. Okay, so super is the first thing you need to write inside the constructor in order to make sure that you are not overriding anything from the lightning element class, because constructor is written on the lightning element class inside the LWC module. Okay, let me write console.log. So inside constructor, and we will see if accounts has any value or not. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if it will not have any value, it will give us an whatever inside connected. It will not have any value, then we will be able to see that it is either undefined or null or whatever it is. Let's see what happens. Inside rendered callback. Okay.
Also, there are other tools, sir, like disconnect and error.
Those, see, other two will not be displayed. See, because disconnected callback will only happen when you remove the page, remove this lightning web dot component page from the screen. So that will not happen in the same hook. The only the mounting phase related callbacks will be displayed on the console.log. Then disconnected callback or the error callback will only see disconnected will only be fired when you disconnect your page from a particular DOM. And error callback will only be called when there's some error happens. So I don't think that will happen in the
Yes.
page right now. Right now, let's go ahead with these. Okay. And see what happens. First, if you remove the
I
construct,
guess if we like call one child, then we can show that, right? Call one child, then we can show that disconnected, I guess.
see, if it is only about showing, I can show you how we can see the disconnected thing. I can write down a button.
I'm just understanding. Like disconnected call, I've seen somewhere disconnected callback. I guess that was from child, I guess.
सर
Yes,
हाँ
we can
दिखा
do that.
देना सर वो
We
डिस्प्ले
can do that. Don't worry. Let us first cover the this whatever you want to cover, and then if we get time, we will be able to display that as well. Okay. Let's refresh this. Let's come back here. So let's see a working model of it, and then we will talk about the problems. During LW phase, account is not defined. Just a second, guys. Now. Define. I don't want to display anything. I want to see the callbacks. Let's see if it shows something. Just a second, guys. Let the page load. If it will not work, then we will use the functions instead of directly a property, and then we will show you. I will show you how we do it. Don't worry. LWC does some crazy stuff in the backend, so sometimes we do not get what we want immediately. You need to work really hard for that. This will have data, comma, error. So just keep it on the side. This dot counts is equal to data. Start. And then will come to
सर वो दिस का एस नहीं दिया आपने ऊपर नीचे की जगह पे लास्ट में एरर के बाजू में
see, we had these variables, but we were using the property, so that is why I think it was giving us error. Okay. Now let's see.
It's
Line number
line number
13.
13.
Just a second. Let me see. Line number 13. Okay. Now this error at least should go. Find accounts now. We find accounts, guys. Right? We have to find accounts.
Wait, I think we should use like these dot accounts under
Sir, constructor में console.log these dot account.
Yes, because this is a class level variable, we have to use this dot accounts.
सर हम तो फंक्शन से बाहर थे ना सर, रजिस्टर्ड अकाउंट लिखे ऐसा लिखे।
See, जो मैं दिखाना चाहता हूँ, the thing which I want to show you is this. In all three callbacks you are getting undefined. Getting my point?
वायर को कब डेटा मिलेगा?
वायर को डेटा मिला ही नहीं है शुरू में, जब ये कनेक्टेड कॉल बैक और रेंडर्ड कॉल बैक और कंस्ट्रक्टर कॉल हुआ. वायर वाज अनडिफाइंड ऑल द होल टाइम. After this rendered callback, wire will get data and then rendered callback will be called again. Because we do not have anything on the UI right now, that is why rendered callback is not getting called again. But if we put the account in the UI, then rendered callback will be called again. So the logic is that wire method will be called initially, and it will get the undefined as a data initially, but later on whenever values are available on the particular variable, in this case accounts, then rendered callback will be called again. So whenever values are available, how will it get to know? In the UI, whenever values are available, it will display the UI, then it will call the rendered callback again, and it will display some data. Just a second, I will show you this by adding the accounts on the UI. Okay. So for each accounts, now if I save this, go back to the page. See, now you see that rendered callback is getting called again. Here it was undefined and here it was called again, and then it has some data. Okay, these are object. So if I stringify it, I'll be able to see the actual data, but it was able to show you data. So this rendered callback is called again when we are displaying that data. Initially, it will always be undefined. So that is why we should not use connected callback to use the wire data, is that because if you have some logic like if here, if you have some logic like if account is not blank, or account has data, then display this or this, then this logic will always fail, because whenever the connected callback happen, this account will always be undefined. Okay, so it will not be picked, it will not be able to pick the data. Okay, so that is why we sometimes say that a connected callback does not work well with the wire service, because that moment connected callback gets called, the wire is still undefined because it did not have any data at that time. So are you able to see that thing practically now? Like why it does not have data?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That is what I wanted to show you this, because this is a practical interview question, and they ask these things in an interview a lot, and you have seen that thing practically, so you will be able to explain and you will be able to say this with confidence that initially when the constructor will be called, your wire result will not have any data at that time. Okay, it will be undefined. Okay, so make the good use of this practical knowledge.
इसी वजह से हम लोग ना अनडेड कॉल बैक में अब एट वायर पे कॉल नहीं कर सकते.
करेक्ट. एंड आपको और क्या बताना था, जस्ट अ सेकंड ना.
सर मतलब वो प्रॉपर्टी में जब जब डेटा चेंज होगा तब रेंडर कॉल बैक कॉल होगा.
Yes,
मतलब
rendered callback is a callback function which gets called multiple times. Okay, in during the life cycle of a lightning web component, so it will be called multiple times.
multiple times as in ki whenever the data backend data
Yes,
change
backend
it
data changes, or some it got fire from the parent, from the child, and child data changes, then rendered will be called again. Okay, it flows from child to parent, whereas the connected callback flows from the parent to child. Where should we write functions? Okay, now, yeah, very good question from Fahad is that why we should write functions, rather than the properties. See, properties are, easier way to do those things. If we use properties, those are the easier ways to do, and we will be able to just wire it inside in a function, in a property, and then use that property directly. But what we get in the function is that we get better control over what to do with the errors. Okay, if let's say when error happens, then we need to display some different toast notification, then we can control all those things from the functions. Okay, and we can assign those things, that data, to a different variable. Okay, and we can do a lot of other things because we get better control over the result set. We will use functions whenever we need a better control. If we just use a property, then also we will be able to display data, but debugging becomes really difficult, plus error handling becomes really difficult in those kind of scenarios. So try to use functions. It gives you more control over your lightning web component page, and you can play with the errors, you can debug the errors, you can find the errors, you can remove the errors in a better way. Otherwise, if we just use a property, you will always keep on guessing if you got data from Apex or not. Okay, but because we had this error as a function, we were able to console the error, and we were able to find that why we are not getting data, because we did not put cacheable equals to 2. Similarly, if you have any error on your page, you will also be able to get the exact error message. How you going to do that? You are going to use the json.stringify and put the value inside it. Otherwise, it will just display the object. Okay, because it returns the object data. So always remember all these things. This is using the wire method. This is just one way of doing it. Now we will use the another way of doing it, which is the imperative way. Okay, so let us quickly create another lighting web component and call it the wire imperative method. See this with the help of wire method, you will automatically get the data, but there might be some requirement where you don't want to get the data automatically. You want to get the data whenever you want to get the data. You don't want to get the data automatically. So in case you have a requirement where you need to get the data, let's say on a click of a button, then you will be using the imperative way rather than the wire way. If you do not have any such restriction, like you can get the data automatically or with the help of imperative, then you will obviously choose the wire method because it fetches the data automatically. But when you have a restriction to use or to get the data on click of a button, on change of some data, then you will use the imperative method. So again, I will add couple of things from here. Okay, let's say you have a input tag, or let's say we just have a lightning button. Let's call it fetch accounts. Okay, and let's on click, we just write the account handler. Before that, we will just display the data the way we were displaying it in the template tag. So I will copy this. Okay, let me open the JS file of it. So we again need to import the Apex class. So I'm going to copy this and now we need not to use @wire method or something, because we have this. What happens is that the moment we click on the button fetch account, this method will be called. So we need to write down the body of it here. And let's create two variables, one for accounts, one for errors. Okay. And inside this, we are going to call the account data handler method. Okay. So what it does is that then it uses a particular structure. Okay. And then gets the data in the, there is some formatting. I don't want to do it on my own. Let's copy it from somewhere. Don't try to remember all these things. Just remember that what happens when we use the imperative way, it gets the data in the, it gives us a promise in return. So promise has a particular structure. Okay, fetching account list. What I want is the article from Apex Hours. See, Apex Hours is really good blog if you want to learn the Lightning web component. They have the day-wise structure. Okay, you can see all these things here as well. All right, so this is what I was trying to say. Then gets the result. We will copy this. Let me save this. Okay, let me just quickly go through this and see if I'm missing anything. I think so. So let me go back to Salesforce screen again. I'll explain this to you what I have done here. First, let us see if we are getting the output or not. Okay. Refresh this page. We will click on edit page. And we will have to add the new component, let's say here. Okay, and save this. Now we have this button. If we click on this button, we will be able to see the list of the accounts. So that is how we found the account list imperatively. There is no wire method we have used. Okay, we have used on click of a button. So this is basically called the on-demand service. Whenever we need it, we will get the data. Whenever we don't need it, we will not get it automatically. Okay. So this is how we call it imperatively. And if you have to pass, let's say something to this method, like most of the time you will be passing some data to it. So that is also possible here. Inside this, you will pass some data. Okay. So if I show you this in the example given on this, we are passing the account name from here. Okay, so there is a search key. Okay, well, whatever the search key will be, we will pass it from the Lightning Web Component to your Apex class, and you will fetch the account based on that name. So what will happen is that your Apex class will have a parameter like this, same name. If you see the str account name, same parameter will be passed from here, str account name, and then this could be anything, whatever you get as a an input. Okay, so this is when the moment you change something on that page, you will be able to pass this to this search key. So if you have to pass the data, you are going to put the same variable name. This is going to be the same name as you have in the Apex class as an input parameter. Otherwise, it will not work. And you can pass the value directly, and then you can put the logic in your Apex class that only fetch the accounts which have the, let's say, name as equals to search key. So that is how you're gonna pass the data as well. Okay. Now, let me check the questions, whatever questions I have. So Fahad has asked a question. So where should we write wire functions that can be called after the data is fetched? See, what happens is that whenever wire method gets the data, we can have the getters and setters set on it. So we can call the getter and it will only run when we get the data, if it is on the UI logic. Okay. And if you have to do something only when the wire method gets the data or something, then you have to first just check that if it is not equals to undefined, then only do this. Okay. But make sure that you know the sequence of it when it gets the data. So it will not get data in the constructor, it will not get data in the connected callback, it will only get the data in the once the page actually completely rendered. So after the rendered callback, when the page completely renders, then it will get the data. Whenever wire service will get the data, it will uh, you know re uh, rerun the rendered callback, and then you will be able to get the data of it. Okay. So that's how it is. And sometimes there are multiple questions from this topic. Okay, there could be questions on any line of it. Okay, so you need to understand the basics of this topic really well in order to answer the questions of this. Okay. Now there is something latest in the latest release came, where not only we use the conditional rendering. In the conditional rendering, what we did, we use the if true, then let's say display this. Okay. And if false, then display this. But now in the latest release, we have the option to use the if else as well. So if this is true, then do this. Else, if this is true, then do this. Else, do this. So something like this is possible now in the LWC. Earlier it was not possible. Earlier it was only if true and if false, but now else is also supported here. So for this, I want every one of you to go through a practical example and display that. Okay. Very simple example I want you all to create, where you will have in the UI, you will have the if true else statements, and you can define a properties in your JavaScript and mark it true or false, and based on that you will display the different data on the UIs. That is something you guys need to work on it and tell me if you are able to do that or not. Okay. They ask a lot about if we can use if you can omit the cacheable equals to true in the imperative service, and we'll still be able to get the data. So answer is yes. If even if we remove the cacheable equals to true, imperative service will work perfectly fine. Okay. So coming back to the other question.
One more thing, sir. Here we can also use the see, we have LDS. In LDS, we have four methods, imperative methods, right? Like the get data, uh, the record data, and all.
Sorry,
So we
can
can
you
directly
repeat?
use.
Sorry, I just missed your part. Repeat again, please.
Yeah, so I'm saying, see, here in the impression, now we have four types, right? Like the record, get date, get record data, and something,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes,
So,
we have get record data in the Lightning data service functions.
so we can directly use that name, and we can use the impression methods, right?
What
See,
is you want to?
here we have used the apex class method.
Uh-huh.
So see, we have imported apex class, right? And we have assigned a variable like the method name, right?
Uh-huh.
And what we did, just with the help of that a variable name, we just use impression methods, right?
Uh-huh.
So instead of using that variable, if we want to go via LDS, we can directly use the get record and all, right?
See, get record will be able to get you a particular record. It will not be able to get you a list of records.
Yeah, so I'm talking about one particular page.
Uh-huh. Obviously, you can do that. See, if your requirement is fulfilled by LDS, then there is no need to go to write Apex for that. only we
Hmm.
will only use Apex when we get a requirement like something which cannot be achieved via the Lightning Data Services. If Lightning Data Services fits well in your use case, then you will obviously use Lightning Data Service. It reduces a lot of code and it, gives you, a lot of flexibility in terms of without writing Apex, because in the Apex, you not need to just worry about the Apex code, but you also need to take care of the test classes. Okay, you also need to take care of the maintenance of the code. Without writing code, if you're able to achieve something, that will always be a better approach. And most of the time, the clients you will work for will always ask you to, write least amount of code. Okay, most of the time they will say that do all these things in your JavaScript itself, if it is possible. Sometimes you will be doing the date functions where you need to play with dates a lot. And we as a Salesforce developer feel comfortable with Apex. So we kind of push the dates to Apex and then we do all the processing inside the Apex. But many clients will say that, no, don't do these things in Apex. Just try to do these things in the JavaScript within your LWC code so that we will not have lines of code in your Apex classes. So it is possible. I mean, uh, most of the time, whenever you are in the fix when to use Apex or when to use most of the things you can do in the JavaScript as well. But if it is about getting the Salesforce data from the backend, then you will have to use Apex. If your functionality is not achieved by the Lightning Data Services, then you will have to use Apex. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So in an interview, if they ask you like, what is the need of Apex or when should we use Apex, then always tell that the first approach will always be to try to fit in the Lightning Data Services based wire services and wire adapters and functions and try to see if we can achieve something without writing Apex code. That will be our first approach. But if it is absolutely not possible, or let's say you have to fetch the list of accounts, contacts, and opportunity in a single go, then obviously it is not possible with the data services. You will have to write the wrapper class for that. In that case, obviously you will have to use the Apex for that. And it's not like you will, I mean, you are restricted or you should use less Apex. You are allowed to use, I mean, that is the whole purpose of having the Lightning Web Component, so that you can interact with the backend data smoothly without, thinking much about the complexity. But if it is avoidable, we will avoid it. If it is not, then it's not something which will break your system or which is wrong for your, because most of the Apex code we write for the Lightning Web Component is the simple code. What we try to do is to get the data so that we can iterate over data or display the data or find some matches in the data, all those things. So Apex will not be very difficult in terms of LWC code. Okay.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
See, Fahad is asking, isn't it wrong to write business logic in JavaScript because it is on the client side? See, there is nothing wrong or right. Sometimes we have to decide if we should do all those things in the client side to make the application faster. Like if you have to do some date calculation or if you have to do some calculation which are not dependent on Salesforce data, then obviously that can be done inside the JavaScript and it will make your application faster. Because understand it from this point of view, you do not need Apex for to do something. Then why will you use Apex to do something and purposefully make your system slow by doing the server calls again and again? Let's say you have to do the date calculation, you have to calculate a date from today to next 30 days. That can easily be done within the JavaScript. And if you do within JavaScript, your client side code will be really fast. But if you do that thing in the Apex and fetch the, let's say, next 30 date from your Apex, that will unnecessarily be, taking more time without having any logic. So unless you have some data to fetch from Apex and some actual processing which is easier in Apex to do, then you will use Apex. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong in writing the code in the JavaScript. I mean, you guys will be writing a lot of code in JavaScript to do that. See, let's say you are using Lightning Data Services, okay? And with the help of Lightning Data Services, you are able to display the data. But then you have to do some calculations on that data on the next screen and pass that data. Then you do not have any option to use Apex here, right? Because you have fetched that data with the help of Lightning Data Services. And on that data, you need to do some processing. So at that time, you will not have any option but to use JavaScript to do all those heavy lifting for you. And there is nothing wrong in that. Okay. The wrong will only come when you have the data and when you get the data from the Salesforce Apex class, and then you have to do some processing on that data, because that processing is better handled in the Apex, because Apex is better equipped to handle the Salesforce data. So at that time, we will use the Salesforce Apex rather than using the JavaScript. But it's not wrong to use JavaScript to do some business logic, because you will be doing a lot of business logic in JavaScript. Okay, and that's what we used to do in the Apex as well. Sorry, in the Aura components as well. Okay. All right. So next day we will be covering the parent to child and child to parent communication. And before that, I will show you how disconnected callback in the page works. Okay. And there are some smaller topics which I want you guys to go through, which are the navigation services and the toast notification. So if I show you the toast notification, that is very easy. Because we will have at least two dedicated sessions just for the LWC questions. We are covering the topics, but we are not covering the questions as of now. So we will have at least two sessions where we just talk about the different questions in the Lighting Web component, irrespective of which topic they are from. Currently, we are focusing on topic, but this is just to make sure that you have basic understanding of the basic topics. Okay, then we will go through the questions only. So make sure if you have any question, you put that question on the sheet we have. Okay, see, toast notification is basically to show you the warning or the success message or the error message like this. Okay, we have used it yesterday also. What we need to do is that we have to import the show toast event, okay, from the lightning/platform show toast event module. And then what we need to do, we have to, how we show that, we will create the instance of this and we will pass these three parameters and then we will dispatch that event. That's how we show the notification. We can directly do these things from where we are calling these notification, or we can define a method and put these things in the method, and then from wherever we want to show that notification, we will call this particular method. So toast notification is very simple. It just take three parameters: title, message, and variant. Okay, and you can learn more about it. So variant basically tells you that if it is gray, if it is success or warning or the error will be in red, warning will be in yellow, success will be in green, and info will be in the gray icon. Okay, gray box. So this is the success message. What you can control here is that what you want to display as a message, as a title. Okay, and the mode basically tells you that what kind of message it is. There are three options. Okay, dismissible, pester, and sticky. Sticky, if you're using the mode as sticky, that means that your error will stick on the page and you will have to cancel it in order to get rid of it. Okay. Whereas pester basically means that your error or success, whatever you are displaying, will remain on the screen just for the 3 seconds and then it will be removed automatically. Okay, and dismissible means that it will it will be removed within the 3 seconds. It will be removed in 3 seconds if you do not click on cancel automatically. Otherwise it will have an option to cancel it, so you can just close it and it will be closed even before 3 seconds. But if you will not do so, then it will automatically close within 3 seconds. So try to use these different combinations of the toast notification and tell me if you have any problem in it. Most of the time when we talk about the toast notification, we need to remember that what we need to import. Okay, so you need to remember that you need to import the show toast event. From where you will be importing? From the platform show toast event module in the platform toast event from the lightning module. Okay, and there's not much question in it, but one question that can be asked is that whether you can increase the time from 3 seconds to, let's say, 5 seconds or whatever custom seconds we want to. So by default it is not possible to do it in the toast notification. We cannot change the time or increase the time or decrease the time. We only have these three options available in the mode. We can use that. but we can write a custom component if you want to achieve such functionality. But obviously that will be a lot of development, custom development. So by default, in the standard Salesforce stores notification, it will not be possible for you to increase the time from 3 seconds to, more seconds or less seconds. All right. So we have to fit in our requirement based on the 3 modes available right now. Okay. And if he says that, can we, use, can we do it anyway? So if it is about writing the custom code, then obviously you can do anything you want to do, but with the standard, it is not possible. That's what you are going to answer. Okay. All right. And I think that's what I wanted to cover today. And whenever we call Apex from the sales, from the Lightning Web Component, whether that is synchronous or it's asynchronous, that is also a very important interview question. That is asynchronous. If you want more detail on it, we will cover that. But that is a asynchronous call. Okay. That is also a very important interview question. And from the today's topic, there are many, many, many interview questions. If you see, and if you know that how you display the Apex data from the Apex in your Salesforce, these all can be a theoretical question for you or can be a scenario based question for you, like how will you fetch the data. If you have done these things practically, you will be able to explain him properly that we have two options. One is the imperative way, other one is the wire service. With the help of wire service, we also have option to pass the data. We also have option to use it inside a property or inside a function. We'll get better control over functions. So you have to explain all these things in an interview whenever you get these questions. Okay. I hope this session was helpful for you from the understanding point of view. And with that note, I am going to stop it.